Despite the crown that will one day rest upon your head, your life is not as free or as glorious as it seems. When people today imagine queens or princesses, they think of jewels, rich fabrics, banquets, and power. Welcome wherever you are, and whenever you find this video, I'm glad you're here. Maybe it is night, and the world around you has grown quiet. Maybe it is early morning, and you are still half dreaming. Or maybe you are listening in the middle of the day, needing a small escape. Before we begin, I invite you to pause for a moment and tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? What time is it for you right now? It is always a little magical to see people from every corner of the world gathered here together, sharing the same story across time zones, across cities, across quiet bedrooms. Now let yourself settle in. Find a comfortable place. Breathe slowly, deeply, and allow your shoulders to soften. You don't have to do anything right now. You don't have to achieve anything. You are simply here, listening. And tonight, I will take you far away, back through centuries, back to cold castles and candlelit chambers, back to the hidden, often brutal, but strangely beautiful lives of royal women in medieval times. This will not be a rushed journey. It will be slow, steady, almost like the rhythm of your own breath. It is a story meant to calm you, even as it teaches. A story where history and dreams blend together. So, close your eyes if you wish, and let me guide you, gently, into another world. You wake up inside a cold chamber, and the first thing you feel is the chill of stone. The castle around you is vast, but the air is never truly warm. Even in summer, the stones hold the memory of winter, and so your skin often shivers beneath the weight of your gown. You are not a peasant. You are not a servant. You are a royal woman in medieval Europe. And yet, despite the crown that will one day rest upon your head, your life is not as free or as glorious as it seems. When people today imagine queens or princesses, they think of jewels, rich fabrics, banquets, and power. But in truth, your days are filled with duties, restrictions, and fears. Your body does not belong entirely to you. Your choices are not your own. You are raised to be a symbol of alliance, of inheritance, of loyalty to your family. And this is what it feels like from the inside. The day begins before dawn. A servant wakes you, and another lights the fire in your chamber, though the warmth rarely reaches you before you are fully dressed. Your gown is heavy, made of wool or sometimes silk, depending on the fortune of your house. Underneath, layers of linen shift against your skin. There are no soft cottons here, no light fabrics, and no comfort meant for relaxation. Every garment is practical or symbolic. You are expected to appear proper, to carry yourself with dignity, and to show your wealth through the weight of your clothing. Your hair is brushed by attendants. Sometimes it hurts, sometimes it pulls, but you do not complain. A royal woman does not whine. You sit still, patient, staring at the stone walls while your braids are woven or your veil is pinned. The veil is more than fabric. It is a signal to everyone who sees you. You are unavailable. You are chaste. You are bound to duty. As you rise, you think of breakfast. But your meal is not a matter of choice. What you eat is what the household provides. And often it is stale bread, watered wine, or a small slice of cheese. Sometimes fruits are brought in, but more often they are reserved for men or for guests. A queen does not gorge herself. She eats sparingly, modestly, with her posture straight and her face calm. You are surrounded, always, by eyes. The ladies in waiting who attend you are companions, but also witnesses. They observe your behavior. They guard your secrets. And they whisper them too. You are never truly alone. Solitude is rare, and when you have it, it is fleeting. Even your prayers in the chapel are watched. Your piety is measured, judged, and commented upon. And then there are the expectations. If you are young, you are being prepared for marriage. If you are married, you are expected to produce heirs. Your worth is tied not to your mind or your heart, but to your body specifically, to your womb. A son secures your husband's dynasty. A daughter becomes a tool for another alliance. You are praised when you give birth, blamed when you do not. Miscarriages are whispered about. Stillbirths are mourned in silence, and your body pays the price again and again. Even your marriage was not your choice. It was a negotiation, a contract sealed between men who spoke of kingdoms and borders. You were part of the bargain, a gift to seal an alliance, a bridge between rival families. At your wedding, you wore gold and pearls, but in your heart, you knew the truth. You were currency. And yet, there are moments of beauty. In the garden, when the air smells of herbs and roses, you can close your eyes and imagine you are free. You walk with your ladies, your steps careful on the gravel paths, your hands brushing the lavender. In those brief instants, you remember that you are human, not only a queen, not only a pawn, just a woman. Still, the court does not let you forget your role. Every gesture is watched. If you smile too much at one night, rumors will grow. If you frown at a nobleman, you create offense. Your body language becomes a language of its own, one you must control carefully. At banquets, the hall is filled with light and music. But even here, you are restrained. You sit at the high table, gold goblets shining in the candlelight, platters of roasted meats carried past you. But you do not eat freely. You take a small bite, a sip of wine, and then smile. Others must believe you are content, even if your stomach is empty. For appearances matter more than truth. When sickness comes to the castle, and it often does, you are not spared. Physicians of the time know little of real medicine. They bleed you when you are weak. They mix herbs that sometimes soothe and sometimes harm. Superstition governs their hands more than knowledge. And yet, you endure it. To be royal is to endure. At night, when the fire burns low and the shadows grow long, you lie in your heavy bed. The curtains close around you, not just for warmth, but for privacy. And as you listen to the sounds of the castle, the guards shifting in the courtyard, the dogs barking at the gate, the wind rattling against the shutters, you think of the women before you, queens who lived, who bore children, who died in childbirth, who were remembered or forgotten. You realize something. Your life, though wrapped in jewels and silks, is not your own. You live for your family, for your husband, for your children, for the kingdom. You are the thread that ties men's power together. And though the world calls you royal, you know the truth. You are trapped inside golden chains. Yet, as you close your eyes, you breathe slowly. You imagine tomorrow the same routine, the same duties, the same eyes watching. And you whisper a prayer, not for glory, not for power, but for peace. A simple peace in a world that demands so much from you. You are no longer a child. Your years of waiting in the castle nursery are over. Now, as a young royal woman, your future is already written, though you did not write it yourself. You belong not to yourself, but to a contract, a promise made long before you could even understand what marriage meant. From the moment you were born, your life was measured in alliances. When you were still swaddled in linen, your parents spoke of your worth, not in love or personality, but in dowry, in bloodline, in the lands your hand in marriage might secure. To be royal is to be valuable, but that value is never your own to use. It is given, traded, and bartered by men who sit in chambers of stone and argue about borders. The betrothal often happens when you are still a girl. You may be 10 years old, or 12, or perhaps even younger, when the promise is made. You do not yet know what it means to share a bed, to bear a child, to keep a household, But you were told, one day, you will marry this man. A man perhaps 20 years older than you. Perhaps a stranger. Perhaps someone you will never meet until the wedding day itself. And so, your education begins with that destiny in mind. You learn languages, for your husband may not speak your tongue. You learn etiquette, for your duty will be to represent your family in a foreign court. You learn how to pray, how to sit, how to walk, how to smile, every gesture designed to show obedience and dignity. When the day comes, the wedding is grand, filled with banners, bells, and feasting. To the outside world, it looks like a celebration. To you, it feels like a crossing. You step out of childhood and into duty. Your gown is heavy with embroidery, your hair woven with gold threads, your hands gloved in silk. The church is filled with incense, and the sound of chanting fills your ears. Everyone looks at you, but no one asks you, do you wish this union? Do you love this man? Your silence is the answer, and silence is what is expected. The first night of marriage is perhaps the most frightening. You are placed in a chamber with your new husband. Outside the door, lords and ladies wait, whispering, laughing softly. For in many courts, the consummation of the marriage is a public matter. Sheets are inspected, witnesses linger, and your body becomes a stage upon which politics is confirmed. You may be a child still, trembling, confused, but no one cares for that. You are a royal woman. You are not meant to feel. You are meant to prove. From then on, your husband is your lord, your master, and your fate. Some are kind, some are cruel. But kindness or cruelty matters less than the simple fact. He decides. He controls where you live, how you are treated, who surrounds you. If he is gentle, you count yourself lucky. If he is harsh, you endure. Either way, the world sees you as his property. And then comes the burden of expectation. You must produce children, not just children, but sons. A daughter is useful, yes, another piece to marry away. But a son secures the line. Each month, you wait in quiet hope, counting the days, praying for signs. And if you conceive, the fear only deepens. Pregnancy in the Middle Ages is no gentle journey. Your body swells, your strength weakens, your back aches, and all the while you know the risk. Death in childbirth is so common that prayers for your survival are said in advance. When the labor comes, the chamber fills with women, midwives, servants, perhaps even your ladies in waiting. Men wait outside, impatient for the result. You scream, you struggle, you bleed. Sometimes you live, sometimes you do not. Sometimes the child lives. Sometimes neither of you do. And yet, each time you survive, the cycle begins again. Another pregnancy, another risk. Because your worth is measured not in how you think or what you feel, but in the airs you give. There is little tenderness in this life. Even your children may be taken from you. Sons are often raised by tutors and guards, taught the arts of war and governance, while you are left behind. Daughters may be sent away, promised to other men as you once were. You cradle them as infants. You kiss their soft cheeks, and then they are gone, swallowed by duty, by marriage, by the endless trade of royal blood. At court, your position is fragile. If you are childless, you are whispered about. If you give birth only to daughters, you are pitied or blamed. Even queens have been set aside, annulled, discarded, replaced. Love is never guaranteed. Loyalty is fragile. Power belongs to your husband, not to you. And yet, you find ways to survive. You cultivate influence in the shadows. You write letters. You whisper in your husband's ear at night. You build friendships with those who might protect you. You learn the subtle art of politics, not through speeches or battles, but through patience, through listening, through knowing when to smile and when to stay silent. Your life is a constant performance, one that requires skill, endurance, and endless restraint. And sometimes, in rare cases, A royal woman does rise above her role. A queen mother guiding her son. A regent ruling in a king's absence. A woman whose cleverness cannot be ignored. But these are exceptions, rare as stars on a cloudy night. For most, a crown is not freedom. It is a cage. At night, when you lie beside your husband in the vast bed of carved oak, you stare at the ceiling, at the flickering shadows of the candlelight. You wonder if this is all there will ever be. And in truth, for most royal women, it is. The burden of marriage never ends. It is a chain that binds you until death, sometimes a quiet death in childbed, sometimes a lonely death in the cold chambers of a castle, remembered only as a name in a lineage. Still, you breathe slowly. You remember that others before you endured, and others after you will endure as well. Your life is brutal, yes, but it is also the only life you have been given. And so you carry it, with the silence and the strength expected of a queen. You sit in the great hall, surrounded by tapestries and shining torches. But even here, with so many people watching you, you feel alone. Loneliness is the quiet companion of nearly every royal woman in medieval times. From the outside, it seems impossible. You are never without attendants, never without guards, never without someone ready to bow. And yet, the truth is that the more people you have around you, the less freedom you truly own. Everywhere you go, eyes follow. The women of your household dress you, serve you, keep you company, but they also report on you. Every word you say may be carried beyond the chamber walls. If you sigh too heavily, someone whispers that you are unhappy. If you laugh too freely, someone suggests you are careless. Even silence is judged. Loneliness grows not from the absence of people, but from the absence of trust. When you walk through the castle gardens, you do not walk alone. Ladies in waiting trail beside you, guards keep watch nearby, and sometimes foreign visitors observe from a distance. You long to feel the grass beneath your bare feet, to sit quietly by the fountain without anyone at your side. But such freedoms are for common women, not for you. You are a symbol, always visible, always displayed. Marriage, too, rarely eases this solitude. Your husband may spend more time hunting, at war, or in council than with you. He may have mistresses, women who laugh and talk with him in ways you cannot. Even if he is kind, he is still distant, bound by duties of his own. You share a bed, but not always a heart. And so, your nights are often silent, your words swallowed before they can escape your lips. Friendship is a dangerous game. A royal woman cannot confide in just anyone. If you grow too close to one lady, others become jealous. If you speak too warmly to a knight, rumors begin to circle. Every bond carries risk. Betrayal lurks in whispers, in glances, in the sudden change of someone's smile. Even those who seem loyal may be bribed or pressured to speak against you. And so, your companions are often books, prayers, and memories. The Psalter rests heavy in your hands as you read by candlelight. The Latin words, both a comfort and a chain. You pray for guidance, for strength, for mercy. You pray not just for yourself, but for your children, for your husband, for the kingdom. You pray for peace, but also for simple companionship, the warmth of someone who listens without judgment. Sometimes you write letters. Ink stains your fingers as you compose words to your mother, your sister, or an old friend left behind in your childhood home. You pour your heart onto the page, knowing that the message may never arrive, or worse, that it may be read by others before it reaches its destination. Still, the act of writing soothes you. For a few moments, you feel as though someone far away can hear you, can share in your burdens. Festivals and feasts are supposed to bring joy, but to you, they often deepen the emptiness. In the great hall, music plays, dancers spin, and goblets clink. You smile, you nod, you raise your cup. Yet beneath the laughter and the noise, you feel the hollow space inside yourself. You watch the faces around you and wonder if anyone here truly knows you. Not the queen, not the princess, not the duchess, but the woman beneath all the titles. Loneliness shapes the way you see the world. You learn to watch people closely, to read their faces, to sense the undercurrent of conversations. You become an expert in silence, in patience, in waiting. A raised eyebrow, a delayed answer, a shift in posture. You notice what others do not. And though you rarely speak your mind, you carry these observations with you, storing them like hidden treasures. In rare moments, when the castle quiets, and even your ladies-in-waiting drift asleep, you find yourself standing by the window. The night air seeps through the cracks, cool against your skin. Below, the village lies in darkness, with only a few flickering lights from hearths and candles. You wonder what it must feel like to live as they do, to work in the fields, to eat a simple meal, to sleep beside your family without ceremony or judgment. Their lives are harsh, yes, but also full of a freedom you may never taste. The loneliness of royalty is not loud. It is not filled with tears or dramatic cries. It is quiet, steady, like a weight that never leaves your shoulders. Day after day, year after year, it presses on you, shaping your soul in ways unseen. You learn to endure it because you must. You learn to smile because it is expected. You learn to silence your heart because it is safer. And yet, inside you, there remains a small ember of longing, the desire to be seen, to be heard, to be loved simply as a woman, not as a crown. Sometimes, in dreams, you imagine another life, one where you walk freely, one where your laughter is real, one where your hands are not weighed down by rings of duty. But when you wake, the dream dissolves, and the stone walls greet you once again. Still, you carry on. You rise each morning, you dress in heavy gowns, you sit through councils and ceremonies, you offer polite words to those who bow before you. The world sees a queen, a lady of power. Only you know the truth. Behind the crown, behind the jewels, there is a silence so deep that it echoes within you. A silence that no banquet, no prayer, no jewel can truly fill. And so, the loneliness continues. It is the invisible thread woven through the life of every royal woman in the medieval world. You may share it with countless others across time, yet it always feels uniquely your own. You cradle a child in your arms. His skin is soft, his breaths shallow, his cry fragile like the flutter of a bird's wings. Around you, the chamber smells of herbs and sweat, the remains of childbirth still lingering in the air. The midwives have gone, your ladies hover in silence, and for the moment, the world is still. You are a royal woman, and you are now a mother. But motherhood in your world is never simple. The baby you hold is not only your child, he is a symbol, a promise, an answer to prayers whispered by the court. If he is a son, the hall outside will soon ring with celebration. If he is a daughter, there will be smiles, but quieter ones, tinged with disappointment, as though she were a lesser blessing. Already, before her eyes have fully opened, her worth is weighed and measured. Your body aches, your strength is gone, but your duty has only begun. Motherhood is not a private matter for you. It is public, political, watched closely by all. Your husband, your in-laws, the church, the court, each one has an opinion on how you should feed, raise, and educate your children. The child belongs to you only in the softest hours of the night, when no one else is watching. Nursing is not always permitted for a woman of your rank. Wet nurses are often hired, women whose own infants are pushed aside so that they may feed yours. The decision is not truly yours to make. You may wish to nurse your child, to feel the bond of life drawn from your own body, but the court decides otherwise. Your health, your appearance, your fertility are considered too precious to risk. And so, Even this first connection may be taken from you. As the child grows, the distance grows as well. Sons are soon surrounded by tutors, knights, priests. They are trained for war, for governance, for the crown. You watch them from afar, proud and yet lonely, your presence slowly replaced by men who teach them duty and strength. Daughters remain closer, often learning at your side, but even they are destined to be sent away. You teach them to sew, to pray, to carry themselves with grace, knowing that every lesson is preparing them for a life of duty like your own. Motherhood is love, but it is also fear. Children in your world are fragile. Illness comes suddenly, fever, cough, rash, and you can do little but pray. Physicians offer herbs, charms, and sometimes bloodletting, but often it is useless. You sit beside the cradle through the night, listening to shallow breaths, begging silently for survival. Sometimes the prayers are answered. Sometimes they are not. Small graves fill the churchyards, each one holding not only a child, but a mother's broken heart. And yet, when your child survives, you are filled with hope. You watch their first steps across the cold stone floor. You hear their laughter echo in the hallways. You hold their small hands, guiding them through gardens heavy with roses. These moments are precious, hidden gems within a life otherwise heavy with duty. Still, the weight never lifts. Every child you bear ties you further to expectation. Another pregnancy looms, another risk, another test of survival. Your body grows weaker with each one, your bones aching, your skin pale, your strength slowly drained. Some women endure 10, 12, even 15 births. Some do not survive half as many. Each time you lie down in the birthing chamber, you know it may be the last time you rise again. And then there is the fear of failure. If your sons die, if you bear no heirs, you may be cast aside. Queens have been set aside, annulled, disgraced, their marriages dissolved for the crime of childlessness. It is never the king who is blamed. It is always the woman. Your body carries the burden of the dynasty, and when it falters, you pay the price. Even when you succeed, even when you give birth to a healthy son, your motherhood does not free you. You are praised, yes, but praise is fleeting. Soon the whispers return. Will she bear another? Will she give us more? One success is never enough. The cycle is endless. At night, you lie in your bed, your body sore, your thoughts restless. You hear the distant cries of your infant, perhaps in another chamber with a nurse, perhaps far away in a nursery you cannot enter freely. Your arms ache with emptiness. You long to hold them, to soothe them, to be the mother your heart desires to be. But you are not only a mother, you are a queen. And queens are not permitted the luxuries of private love. Still, when you do hold your child, when the court forgets you for a moment, and the chamber is quiet, you breathe deeply. You watch their eyes flutter closed, their small chest rise and fall. In that silence, you remember why you endure. You remember why you face the risks again and again. For beneath the jewels, beneath the titles, beneath the endless duty, you are still a mother. And in those fleeting, stolen moments, love is yours alone. The bells of the chapel ring in the morning air. Their sound echoes across the courtyard, pulling you from uneasy dreams into another day of duty. You rise from your bed, attendants bustling around you, and you prepare once more to step into a role you never chose, but can never escape. Today, like every day, you are not simply a woman. You are the queen, or the princess, or the duchess, and every step you take is bound to the chains of power. In the medieval world, power is not only held by swords or crowns, it is held by the church. Priests and bishops move freely through the castle, their presence both comforting and heavy. For you, as a royal woman, their judgment is constant. They speak of obedience, of purity, of sin. They tell you that a wife must submit to her husband, that a mother must accept her suffering as holy, that silence and patience are virtues above all. You kneel in the chapel, whispering prayers, but inside you feel the weight of their eyes. Your marriage was blessed by the church, sealed in sacred vows. Breaking those vows is unthinkable. Divorce is nearly impossible. Annulment, a scandal. Even when your husband strays, when he takes other women to his bed, you are expected to endure. The priests tell you that your suffering mirrors the Virgin's humility. You are praised not for strength in battle or wisdom in counsel, but for quiet endurance, for carrying the burdens placed upon you without complaint. And yet, the church is not only your judge, it is also your weapon. Royal women throughout the centuries have turned to its power when all else failed. Some queens built alliances with abbots and bishops, using piety as a shield against enemies. Some sought refuge in convents, finding in those stone walls a measure of freedom denied at court. Others funded monasteries, their names carved into prayer books, their souls remembered long after their bodies had gone. Still, politics presses closer than prayer. Your husband's wars shape your life as surely as childbirth does. When he marches to battle, you are left behind, expected to manage the household, to keep the court loyal, to maintain order in his absence. Sometimes you are even left as regent, ruler in name, while men watch closely for any sign of weakness. You sit in council chambers, the maps spread before you, your advisors speaking in voices that test your patience. Every decision you make is scrutinized, every word weighed. History remembers a few royal women who excelled in this role. Eleanor of Aquitaine, who crossed half of Europe, leading armies and guiding kings. Isabella of France, who defied her husband and seized power with her son. Matilda, who fought for her right to rule as queen in her own name. Their stories shine like rare jewels, but they are exceptions. Most women in your place remained shadows, hidden behind their husbands' names, their influence whispered rather than proclaimed. And yet, you are always part of these larger stories. When kingdoms go to war, you are often the cause, or at least the excuse. A dowry unpaid, a betrothal broken, a queen insulted. These are sparks that ignite battles. Armies march, men die, lands are lost or won. And through it all, your name is spoken. Not because you chose it, but because you were chosen. In moments of peace, life is a little easier. Courts are filled with rivalries, with jealousies, with schemes. You must navigate them carefully. A misplaced word can make you an enemy. A too friendly glance can create scandal. You learn to smile when you wish to frown, to nod when you wish to refuse. Politics is not only fought in council chambers. It is fought in whispers, in glances, in the subtle dance of courtly life. And beneath it all, the church watches. It decides what is sin and what is virtue, what is proper and what is dangerous. It blesses your children, records your lineage, and ensures that your suffering is framed not as cruelty, but as holiness. When you bleed in childbirth, you are told it is sacred. When you remain faithful to a faithless husband, you are praised as virtuous. Even when your heart breaks, the church teaches you to see it as divine. But in the quiet moments, you feel differently. You sit by the window of your chamber, the psalter resting on your lap, and you watch the sun set behind the castle walls. The chants of the monks echo faintly in the distance, carried on the evening air. You breathe deeply and ask yourself, is this holiness, or simply survival? Is obedience truly a virtue, or is it the chain that binds every royal woman who came before you? The world will never answer. And so you bow your head, you whisper your prayers, and you endure. For in the medieval world, to be royal is to be bound by duty, by marriage, by the church, and by the endless weight of history itself. The clash of swords never echoes in your chamber, yet war finds you all the same. The banners that rise over castles, the drums that beat in muddy fields, the cries of men locked in battle, all of these shape your life, though your hands never touch a blade. As a royal woman, you were drawn into war not as a soldier, but as its quiet prisoner. When kingdoms quarrel, your body often becomes the truce. Marriage treaties seal peace. Your hand promised to end bloodshed between rival lords. But peace is fragile. When alliances fail, when kings quarrel again, you find yourself blamed, your loyalty questioned. To marry is to bind two realms together, and when that bond frays, you are caught in the tearing. Sometimes, war steals even your home. You may be sent away as a hostage, a guarantee of your father's obedience, or a pledge for your husband's victory. Many royal daughters have crossed borders under guard, their journeys marked not by joy, but by fear. You sit on horseback, your veil fluttering, your eyes fixed on a horizon that means exile as much as destiny. Behind you lies your childhood. Before you lies uncertainty. And when war erupts, the suffering follows you inside castle walls. The men ride to battle, but you remain, overseeing what little safety can be found. Refugees fled the gates. Food grows scarce. Fear seeps into every chamber. The castle that once seemed a fortress now feels like a cage. You hear news of battles, victories, defeats carried by dusty messengers who bow and whisper, never sure whether to offer comfort or warning. Some queens rise in these times, stepping forward where men have fallen. Eleanor of Aquitaine rode with knights on the Second Crusade, her presence both inspiring and scandalous. Isabella of France, weary of a faithless husband, crossed the sea to raise an army, returning not as wife, but as conqueror. Margaret of Anjou fought fiercely for her son's inheritance in the Wars of the Roses, her name spoken with both fear and awe. These women are remembered as she-wolves, as though power in a woman must always be unnatural, dangerous, wild. But for most, war meant only silence. You sat at the high table, smiling though your heart trembled. You prayed in the chapel for sons at war, for husbands lost in distant lands. You endured the rumors, whispers, that you favored one faction too strongly, that you plotted in secret, that your loyalty could not be trusted. A royal woman is never permitted neutrality. Even silence is taken as a choice. And when armies marched too close, even queens were not safe. Castles burned, cities fell. Noble women fled in haste, their jewels hidden, their children clutched in trembling arms. Some were captured, held as prizes of war, paraded as trophies to humiliate the men they represented. In these moments, the crown on your head is not a shield. It is a target. You know this fear well. The walls of your castle shake with the thunder of siege engines. Stones crash against the towers, arrows whistle through the air, and smoke stains the sky. You sit in your chamber, hands folded, attendants whispering prayers, as the world outside trembles. You think of all the queens who sat just as you do, listening to the drumbeat of destruction, powerless to change its course. Even when peace returns, its cost is heavy. You may be forced into new alliances, compelled to accept the enemies of yesterday as family today. You smile at banquets beside men whose swords once dripped with your people's blood. You marry your daughter to a rival son, pretending the past has been washed away. But you never forget. The court poets sing of knights and their glories, but they rarely sing of you. Your victories are quieter, surviving another siege, protecting your children, keeping the household together when the world beyond the gates collapses. These are not the victories carved in chronicles, but they are victories all the same. And when history does remember you, it often twists your story. If you are strong, they call you ruthless. If you are clever, they call you scheming. If you're patient, they call you weak. Royal women walk a narrow path, judged by standards no man is forced to follow. You may save a kingdom through your endurance, yet still be blamed for its fall. At night, the war drums fade into memory, but the silence is no easier. You lie awake, wondering if your husband will return, if your son will live to see another dawn, if your daughter will be safe in the arms of strangers. You pray, though you know prayers cannot stop arrows. You close your eyes, though you know dreams cannot keep castles from burning. And yet, you endure, for that is what royal women have always done. You endure the wars you did not start, the battles you did not fight, the treaties you did not sign. History marches on with its clashing swords and thundering hooves, and you remain silent, watching, suffering, surviving. You have always known that your worth, in the eyes of your world, rests in your womb. Queens are measured not by their wisdom, nor by their kindness, but by their ability to produce heirs. Sons mean stability, power, and the future of dynasties. Daughters mean alliances, marriages, and treaties. A royal woman's body is a battlefield, even when no wars are fought outside the castle walls. From the moment you are married, eyes turn to your belly. Courtiers whisper, priests bless. Physicians hover, waiting for the first signs of swelling. When you rise from table too quickly, they wonder if you feel ill with pregnancy. When you decline wine, they take it as a sign. Your body is no longer your own. It belongs to the realm, a public vessel for the kingdom's survival. And when at last the child comes, the ordeal is not private. Birth, for queens, is often performed before witnesses, so no one may doubt the legitimacy of the heir. You labor in pain, while noble ladies stand around you, watching, listening, ensuring that no trickery is done. The cries that tear from your throat echo not only through the chamber, but through the annals of history, for each birth may decide the fate of nations. But not all stories end with joy. Many royal women die in childbirth, their names recorded with cold precision in chronicles. The queen expired after delivering her child. Others lose infants within days, their swaddled bodies carried silently to chapels for burial. Grief becomes your constant companion. Each time you cradle a child, you know that death may take them before they learn to walk. Yet when you succeed, when sons grow strong, and daughters become brides of powerful lords, your influence spreads beyond the nursery. As the mother of heirs, you gain a power no council can ignore. You become the guardian of futures, the keeper of bloodlines. Eleanor of Aquitaine gave birth to 10 children, scattering her lineage across Europe like seeds of oak. Blanche of Castile raised her son, Louis the IX, to be both king and saint, ruling France with a steady hand while he grew to manhood. But motherhood in royalty is never free from suspicion. If your son falters, blame falls upon you. If your daughter defies her husband, whispers claim she inherited your stubbornness. If the kingdom fractures, tongues wag that the queen failed to guide her children rightly. Even when you succeed, your triumph is not wholly your own. It belongs to the dynasty, to the king, to the realm. And sometimes, your love for your children becomes a weapon used against you. Rival lords accuse you of favoring one son over another, fueling civil wars of succession. Mothers have been accused of poisoning rivals, of plotting rebellions in the name of their offspring, of manipulating kings with maternal grief. Whether true or false, such rumors cling to you, shaping your legacy long after your body is dust. Yet, in the quiet moments, far from the noise of courts and chronicles, you are simply a mother. You sit by the fire, rocking your infant, humming a soft tune. You wipe a child's tears when they stumble. You whisper advice to a daughter nervous before her wedding. These moments, so ordinary, are rarely written in history books, but they are the moments that make you human, not just a queen. Still, history remembers the tragedies most. Margaret of Anjou watched her son slain in battle, her dynasty shattered in a single stroke. Isabella of France saw her son rise as king, yet turned against her when he cast her into exile. Catherine of Aragon bore children for Henry VIII, but only one survived Mary, whose reign would be shadowed by her mother's struggles. These women carried the weight of kingdoms, and in the end, even their children could not shield them from sorrow. To be a royal mother in the Middle Ages was to live with constant fear. Fear of dying in childbirth, fear of losing children to sickness, fear of dynasties collapsing if heirs did not come. And yet, despite the fear, despite the pain, you carried on because you had no choice. The survival of nations depended upon you, and queens have always been taught to endure. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, imagine yourself not in a palace, but in a dim chamber lit by flickering candles. The air smells of herbs, the midwives whisper prayers, and your body trembles with both pain and hope. Outside the chamber, the kingdom waits. Inside, you are only a woman breathing, sweating, weeping, and praying that the child in your arms will live to inherit a world that has never been gentle to queens. You walk into the great hall, and immediately the air changes. Candles flicker from tall iron stands, their light casting long shadows across carved beams and painted walls. The room is filled not with warmth, but with eyes. Dozens of eyes. Men in velvet cloaks, women in jewels that sparkle in the dimness, clerics in their solemn robes, all watching, all waiting, all weighing each movement you make. For a royal woman, the medieval court is never a home. It is a stage. Every smile you give, every word you speak, every glance you allow yourself must be measured. Courtiers feed on gestures as birds feed on crumbs. A misplaced word can become a rumor. A single hesitation can be turned into evidence of weakness. You might imagine a court to be splendid music, feasts, golden plates, and shimmering banners. But beneath the beauty lies a constant hum of suspicion. Alliances shift as quickly as the wind. One day, a noble family is in favor. The next, they are disgraced, stripped of lands, their heads bent before an executioner's sword. And as queen, you stand in the center of this storm. Many royal women learn to master the language of silence. A slight nod, a faint smile, a calculated pause, these become tools, sharper than any blade. Eleanor of Aquitaine once sat in councils where men argued furiously, yet a single lifted eyebrow from her could silence the room. Catherine de' Medici, centuries later, would become infamous for turning whispers into weapons, guiding the fates of kings with nothing but veiled words. But not all queens succeed in the theater of intrigue. Some stumble, their missteps feeding gossip that grows like ivy across stone walls. Anne Boleyn charmed Henry VIII's court with wit and boldness. Yet when the tide turned against her, those same qualities were painted as arrogance, cruelty, witchcraft. Within months, she went from a glittering queen to a condemned traitor. And you, if you were such a woman, would live every day with the knowledge that spies surround you. Servants may report your words. Priests may twist your confessions. Even friends may become informants if it serves their fortunes. Your chambers echo not only with laughter and music, but with secrets carried in hurried footsteps and half-whispered prayers. The court is also a place of endless performance. Feasts are not only meals, they are displays of wealth and order. Tournaments are not only games, they are declarations of strength and loyalty. Masks and dances are not only entertainments, they are coded messages, opportunities to show favor or disfavor without uttering a single word. As a royal woman, your clothing itself becomes part of the play. A gown in one color signals peace, Another signals mourning, another hints at alliances. A necklace gifted by a foreign ambassador must be worn at the right time to confirm bonds, yet not so often that it seems you value outsiders more than your own court. Even the way you braid your hair can send a message, for styles are copied and whispered about by noblewomen eager to please or insult. And through it all, you remain both powerful and powerless. Powerful because your presence can sway politics, marriages, and treaties. Powerless because any wrong step may be seized upon by men who wait eagerly to declare a woman unfit to wield influence. History remembers certain queens not only for their crowns, but for their skill or failure in navigating these perilous waters. Isabella of Castile, sharp-minded and steady, steered her court with an iron will, bending even proud nobles to her cause. By contrast, Marie Antoinette, though centuries later, was destroyed by the very courtly games she never fully mastered, painted as frivolous, cruel, and foreign, until the blade of the guillotine silenced her forever. When night falls, the great halls grow quiet, yet the whispers continue. Behind closed doors, alliances are forged, plots are sharpened, letters sealed with wax are carried down secret corridors. You lie in your chamber, the tapestries heavy with dust, the fire burning low. You may rest your body, but your mind remains alert, replaying every word spoken that day, searching for threats hidden in compliments, dangers cloaked in smiles. And you realize that in the theater of courts, survival is not guaranteed by crowns or armies, but by patience, cunning, and endurance. To live as a royal woman is to perform endlessly, to guard your tongue more carefully than any knight guards his sword, to play a game where the stakes are not only your own life, but the fate of kingdoms. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, you may imagine yourself standing in that great hall once more. Candles glow, music plays, faces blur into a soft haze. You breathe slowly, calmly, letting the weight of the hall fade away. Outside the palace walls, peasants sleep in their cottages, unaware of the endless battles fought in silence behind stone walls. But here, in the hush of your imagination, the court grows still. The whispers fade, and the play, for now, is over. You wake before dawn, not because you wish to, but because the bells call you. Their echoes spill through the stone walls of the palace, vibrating in the cold air. You rise, wrap yourself in a heavy cloak, and make your way toward the chapel. Even queens and princesses, wrapped in silks and jewels, are not spared from the endless rhythm of prayers. In medieval times, religion is not a choice. It is the air you breathe, the water you drink, the very clock by which you measure your life. The church decides when you fast, when you feast, when you confess, when you repent. For royal women, this weight is doubled. Your life is not only your own, it is an example. The people look to you as a mirror of piety. If you fail, they whisper that kingdoms may fall because of your sins. Inside the chapel, the smell of wax and incense thickens the air. Priests chant in Latin, their voices weaving through the gloom. You may not understand every word, but you bow, you kneel, you cross yourself, as expected. A royal woman is always watched, even by God, and more importantly, by his servants. The clergy hold power almost as great as kings. Bishops advise rulers, confessors hear secrets that no one else may know, abbots and nuns guide the education of young princesses. As a royal woman, your confessors may listen not only for your sins, but also for hints of political alliances, for dangerous ambitions, for private doubts. A careless admission, whispered through the lattice of the confessional, could, in time, reach your husband, your father, even your enemies. Many queens spend long hours in prayer. Some, like Blanche of Castile, were known for their fierce devotion, fasting until their bodies grew frail. Others found comfort in the ritual, in the soft murmur of prayers that lulled the mind into stillness. Yet even in devotion, there is a burden. If your child dies, if famine sweeps the land, if war comes, people say it is God's punishment, and that you, the royal woman, must have angered him. Faith is both comfort and cage. You may long for quiet, for a moment to yourself, but religion fills every space. The calendar is marked with saints' days, pilgrimages, vigils, masses. To refuse is unthinkable. To question is dangerous. Queens who dared to oppose church authority, even in small ways, risked excommunication, a word more terrifying than death, for it meant the soul cast out from salvation. Still, some royal women learned to use faith as strength. They founded monasteries, commissioned cathedrals, gave alms to the poor. By doing so, they carved a place of influence within the church itself. A queen could sponsor an abbess, support a bishop, guide her children's education under trusted clergy. Faith, though heavy, became a tool, a way to weave networks of loyalty. And there was also the personal side of belief. Imagine yourself alone at night, candles guttering low, a crucifix on the wall above your bed. You kneel, whispering prayers, not for kingdoms, not for armies, but for yourself, for safety, for peace, for a brief moment of freedom from the eyes that follow you all day. In those private prayers, you are not queen, not pawn, not symbol. You are only human, searching for comfort in a world that rarely grants it. But even that private faith is fragile. Confessors urge you to deny earthly desires, to reject vanity, to humble yourself. Yet as a royal woman, you cannot be humble. You must wear crowns, enter courts in robes heavy with gold thread, display your wealth for all to see. The church demands humility. The throne demands grandeur, and you are caught in between. Sometimes, faith becomes a battlefield. In times of conflict between kings and popes, royal women are forced to choose sides. Do you stand with your husband, risking the wrath of the church? Or do you bow to the pope, risking your marriage and your influence at court? Each choice is perilous. Each prayer a knife edge between loyalty and survival. You drift again into the rhythm of bells. Morning mass, evening prayers, fasts that leave you weak, feasts that drown you in ritual. Over and over, the same words, the same gestures, until they blur into a soft haze. And in that haze, there is almost peace, almost sleep. So tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine the quiet of a medieval chapel. The stone walls are cool, the candles burn low. The chant of monks rises and falls like waves upon the shore. You are small in the vast silence of faith, but for a moment, you are safe. The world outside, with its wars, its courts, its rumors fades, and all that remains is stillness. You open your eyes to the faint light of dawn. The chamber is still, save for the soft breath of a child sleeping in the cradle near your bed. For a brief moment, there is peace, the gentle rhythm of life, a child's presence close to your heart. But in the world of medieval royalty, even motherhood is not simple. It is not only love, but also duty, politics, and unending expectation. As a royal woman, your body is not entirely your own. From the day of your marriage, whispers surround you. When will the first child come? Will it be a boy? Will he be strong? The pressure settles upon your shoulders with every passing month. Courtiers exchange glances, priests preach about fertility, and your husband grows restless. You pray quietly, hoping that nature will not betray you. Pregnancy itself is perilous. The air is heavy with incense, prayers are said over you, relics are laid upon your body. Yet no relic can erase the danger. Fever, blood loss, weakness, all are constant shadows. You know that many women, even queens, do not survive childbirth. Some die delivering the very heirs who will carry on dynasties. And yet, you are expected to face this risk again and again until sons are born. When a child is placed in your arms, you feel both joy and dread. If it is a boy, celebration echoes through the halls. Bells ring, wine flows, messengers ride to announce the heir. If it is a girl, the smiles are softer, the voices more restrained. A princess is valuable, yes, for she may one day be wed to forge alliances. But she is not the son everyone longs for. In private, you may love her fiercely, but in public, her birth is a disappointment. Your days as a mother are filled with both tenderness and distance. Noble infants are rarely raised solely by their mothers. Wet nurses feed them, servants rock them, tutors eventually guide their education. You are allowed moments of closeness, a touch, a lullaby, a whispered prayer at the cradle, but much of their daily life passes beyond your hands. And yet, you are always judged for their behavior. A foolish son, a rebellious daughter, all are seen as reflections of your own virtue, or lack thereof. The greatest burden lies in sons, the heirs to kingdoms. If they are sickly, blame falls upon you. If they die young, as so many do, whispers suggest that you have failed. Some queens bury not one, but several children, their grief hidden beneath veils and rituals. Yet the court does not pause to comfort you. Already, pressure mounts to conceive again, to provide another heir, as though your womb were a battlefield where dynasties rise and fall. And there is politics woven into every cradle. Sons are not just children, they are kings in waiting. Daughters are not just daughters, they are future brides whose marriages may seal peace or spark war. As a royal mother, you spend long nights imagining the futures of your children, futures you cannot entirely control. You may try to guide them, to place trusted advisors at their side, but ultimately, their lives belong as much to the kingdom as to you. Still, in the quiet of night, when the court is asleep, you allow yourself to simply be a mother. You take your child into your arms, feel the warmth of their small body, breathe in the faint scent of milk and linen. You whisper stories, simple ones, not of kingdoms or crowns, but of stars and angels and dreams. For a brief moment, the weight of dynasties falls away, and there is only love. Yet even love is shadowed by fear. You know that one day you may be forced to part with your children. Sons are sent to train as squires, to serve in other courts, to prove their worth. Daughters are married off, sometimes while still very young, their futures bargained away in treaties you did not choose. As queen, you may smile and bless the marriage, but as mother, your heart quietly breaks. History remembers the names of kings, but behind them are mothers who bore them, nursed them, prayed for them. Eleanor of Aquitaine, mother of Richard the Lionheart and King John, shaped kingdoms through her children. Isabella of France saw her son rise as Edward III, though her own legacy was clouded with scandal. For each great ruler, there was a woman who carried the weight of their birth, who endured sleepless nights, who sacrificed her health, sometimes her life, to bring them into the world. And so, you close your eyes again, feeling both the tenderness and the sorrow of motherhood. The lullaby of history is quiet, slow, heavy with memories of mothers who loved their children, yet were never free from duty. Imagine yourself lying beside a cradle, a candle burning low, shadows dancing softly on stone walls. Outside, the world waits with its demands, its wars, its ambitions. But here, in the stillness of night, there is only you and the child breathing peacefully in your arms. For a moment, that is enough. You find yourself in a great stone hall, the walls echoing with distant footsteps. Outside, the air is heavy with rumors, whispers of armies gathering, banners rising, the clash of steel drawing ever closer. War is no stranger to the medieval world. Kingdoms rise and fall by it. Borders shift, and men ride away never to return. But for royal women, war brings a different kind of battle, one fought not with swords, but with silence, patience, and endurance. Imagine you are a queen in such a time. Your husband, the king, has ridden away with his knights, banners fluttering in the wind, the sound of hooves fading into the distance. The court looks to you now, not for battle strategies perhaps, but for stability, for a presence that reassures the people that the crown still stands. The throne may be empty, but your place beside it remains. The weight is immense. You must manage supplies for the castle, keep the treasury in balance, and ensure the loyalty of lords who may be tempted to betray their oaths while the king is away. You sit in council chambers, listening to reports of raids, of villages burned, of borders tested. Each message is another stone added to the burden you carry. Sometimes, you are more than just a caretaker. Some queens truly step into the role of ruler. Think of Blanche of Castile, who governed France while her son, Louis IX, was too young to reign. She negotiated treaties, commanded loyalty, and even stood against rebellious nobles. She did so not with a sword in her hand, but with her authority, her words, and her relentless determination. And yet, there is always fear. War brings danger closer than you wish to admit. If enemies advance, the castle may be besieged. You imagine the sounds, catapults hurling stones against the walls, arrows whistling in the night, the cries of soldiers below. You may walk the battlements, not as a warrior, but as a symbol, showing your people that their queen has not abandoned them. The sight of you standing tall can inspire courage, even when your heart trembles. But war does not only mean battlefields. It seeps into daily life, shaping even the most intimate corners of existence. Food becomes scarce. Servants whisper about shortages. Children grow restless, sensing the tension around them. Messengers arrive at odd hours, their horses foaming, their faces pale with news of victories or defeats. You learn to read the expressions of men before they even speak, knowing when tidings are grim. You may also be forced to make choices that no mother or wife wishes to face. If the castle is threatened, will you send your children away, smuggling them to safety while you remain behind? Will you risk capture, humiliation, perhaps even death, for the sake of honor and the crown? These are decisions that weigh heavier than any sword. For some royal women, war brings unexpected empowerment. When husbands or sons are absent, queens may rule as regents. They sign decrees, collect taxes, and hold courts of law. For a brief time, their voices carry the full weight of authority. But always, this power is precarious, dependent on circumstance. When the king returns, so too must you step aside, retreating once again into the shadows of duty. The songs of chroniclers often overlook these moments. They sing of knights and battles, of kings and banners, but they seldom tell of queens who held realms together while men were gone. They do not write of the sleepless nights, the prayers whispered before icons, the endless waiting for letters from the front. Yet without such women, kingdoms would have crumbled far sooner. As you sit by the window, watching the horizon, you imagine the distant fields where men clash. You see in your mind's eye the faces of those who will not return husbands, brothers, sons. And you know that when the survivors come home, they will carry scars both visible and hidden. It will be your task to heal them, to weave them back into the fabric of life, even as your own heart carries its own wounds. War is not only fought with swords, it is also fought with patience, with resilience, with the quiet strength of those who wait and endure. For queens in times of war, every moment is a test of courage, not the courage of battlefields, but of survival, of holding together a world that threatens to fall apart. And so, as night falls, you light a candle in the chamber. The flames dance softly against the stone walls, casting long shadows. You whisper a prayer for peace, for safety, for the return of those you love. Outside, the world is uncertain. But here, for a moment, you create stillness. You breathe slowly, letting the silence wrap around you like a cloak. The candle burns lower, the shadows deepen, and you feel the weight of centuries. The lives of royal women in war were never easy, never gentle, but they carried burdens that history only half remembers. And in the quiet of your imagination, you walk beside them, sharing their strength, their fear, their endurance, until sleep takes you, like a queen resting before another long day. The war beyond the castle walls may rage on, but inside the stone corridors of the royal household, life must continue with its own rhythm. You awaken at dawn, long before the great hall fills with the sounds of servants and guards. The chamber is cold, the air carrying the faint chill of the morning. A servant draws back the heavy curtains, letting in the pale light of day, and you rise slowly, aware that the hours ahead will be full, though not in the way most imagine a queen's life to be. The first duty is prayer. At a small wooden prie-dieu, you kneel before an icon or crucifix, whispering words that have become routine. These moments are not just for faith, but also for reflection. You pray for the safety of your husband at war, for the health of your children, for wisdom to guide your decisions. The candles flicker softly, and for a few quiet minutes, you allow your heart to settle. Soon after, the chamber fills with attendants. They bring gowns, combs, and jewels. Dressing a queen is no simple matter. Layers of linen, silk, and heavy embroidered cloth must be arranged perfectly. Each choice carries meaning. The color may reflect wealth, piety, or authority. Even as they lace the bodice and drape the sleeves, you are already thinking of the matters of the day ahead. A queen cannot appear careless. Every detail is a message, not just to the court, but to the people who hear of her appearance. Once dressed, you move to the morning council. Here, scribes read letters, stewards present accounts, and advisors speak of trade, taxes, or supplies. Perhaps a messenger has arrived overnight with news from the front of victory, or perhaps only silence. You listen carefully, though you do not always speak. When you do, your words are measured, calm, spoken with authority, yet never hurried. A queen's voice must carry balance, especially in uncertain times. After council, the duties shift toward the household itself. You oversee the kitchens, ensuring that food is properly stored, that no shortages threaten the court. Sometimes you walk among the servants, a presence both distant and reassuring. They bow deeply, but you know their eyes watch closely. Every gesture of kindness, every glance of disapproval is remembered and retold. Later in the morning, you may tend to matters of charity. Petitioners arrive, widows asking for aid, monks seeking donations for a new chapel, poor villagers hoping for grain in a time of hunger. You cannot grant everything, yet you must grant enough to show compassion. A queen is expected to embody mercy, even when resources are thin. Giving bread, offering coin, or even promising prayers is part of your role as the spiritual heart of the realm. As the sun rises higher, the atmosphere of the day softens. You may walk through the gardens, accompanied by ladies-in-waiting. The air smells of herbs and roses, the sound of fountains blending with birdsong. Here, in the walled sanctuary of the palace, you can let your thoughts drift for a while. Sometimes you read from devotional texts or listen as a lady recites poetry. Other times, you sit in embroidery circles, your fingers guiding needle and thread as conversations flow softly around you. These moments may seem gentle, even idle, but they hold meaning. Embroidery and reading are not just pastimes, they are symbols of refinement, reminders to the court that culture lives, even in times of war. The afternoon brings meals, though not always the grand banquets people imagine. A queen's table is carefully ordered: bread, fish, roasted meats, fruits, spiced wine. You eat in moderation, aware that all eyes are upon you. A careless gesture, a sign of indulgence, could be whispered into rumors. Every movement at the table reinforces dignity, restraint, and the majesty of the crown. After the meal, you may hold audiences. Nobles travel long distances to bring concerns, to pledge loyalty, or to quietly test your authority in your husband's absence. You must listen, weigh their words, and give responses that both satisfy and protect the realm. Sometimes it is exhausting, the endless parade of faces, the careful balance between firmness and grace. Yet it is also the essence of your role, to embody stability when uncertainty grows. As evening approaches, family duties return. If you have children, you visit them in their chambers. You check their lessons, hear them recite scripture or practice letters. You remind them of their responsibilities for princes, the future burden of ruling. For daughters, the expectation of alliances through marriage. These lessons are not only for their benefit, but for yours as well. A queen is always judged by the order of her household, the discipline of her children. Later, you may attend vespers in the chapel, the soft chants of monks filling the air with calm. Candles flicker against stained glass, and incense drifts like a gentle cloud. Here, you allow yourself a moment of stillness, even as the weight of the crown rests upon your shoulders. Prayer is not only devotion, but also refuge. The night closes with another meal, often smaller, followed by music or quiet conversation. Perhaps a lute plays, or a storyteller recounts tales of saints and kings. The hall glows with firelight, shadows dancing across stone walls. For a moment, the world outside the war, the danger, the uncertainty feels far away. You laugh softly with your ladies, or sit in silence, letting the warmth of the hearth ease the tension of the day. When the time comes to retire, you return to your chamber. The attendants prepare the bed, layering furs and linen. You dismiss them one by one until the chamber grows quiet. Alone, you remove your jewels, setting aside the symbols of majesty. What remains is simply you, weary, human, carrying both strength and fragility. You kneel once more in prayer, whispering for protection through the night. As you lie down, the castle settles into stillness. The guards walk the walls, the servants retreat to their quarters, and only the distant hoot of an owl breaks the silence. Tomorrow will bring the same duties, the same rituals, the same endless weight of responsibility. But for now, in the soft darkness, you allow yourself to drift into sleep. And as your eyes close, you realize that the life of a queen, though wrapped in silk and gold, is never truly free. It is a chain of duties, a rhythm of obligations, a constant performance for the world. Yet it is also a life of endurance, of quiet strength, and in that, perhaps, lies its own form of greatness. When you think of royal life, you may imagine crowns, feasts, and endless luxury. But the path that led women to stand within those halls of power was often carved through years of learning, practice, and quiet discipline. To be a queen was not simply to wear fine jewels or walk through decorated chambers. It required knowledge of scripture, of languages, of courtly manners, of diplomacy, and even of the subtler art of silence. As a young girl in the palace, you rise not to games or idleness, but to lessons. Before the sun fully climbs the sky, your governess is already waiting. She places a psalter or a book of hours in your hands, and you begin the morning by tracing words in Latin. You do not yet understand them all, but repetition becomes memory, and memory becomes power. The church insists that scripture is the foundation of learning, and so you recite lines, careful not to stumble, for your tutors are strict. Your education is shaped by expectation. You are not taught the same lessons as a prince who will inherit the throne. Instead, your studies lean toward piety, refinement, and the skills of managing a household. You learn to read scripture so that you may guide your children's souls. You learn to write letters so that you may correspond with other noble families across Europe. You are trained in etiquette so that in every gesture you reflect dignity. But alongside these, there are subtler lessons: how to listen, how to observe, how to remember every detail that others might overlook. Music fills part of your day. A lute is placed in your lap, or a harp is brought before you. The strings bite against your fingers at first, but with time, the sound becomes smoother. Soft melodies echoing through the chamber. Music is not merely pastime, it is a language of influence. When you play in the great hall, it is a display of grace. When you sing hymns in chapel, it is a sign of devotion. Languages are another key. You may be taught French if you are born in England, or Latin if your destiny is to correspond with churchmen, or even German or Italian if marriage binds you across borders. Marriage, after all, is one of the greatest purposes prepared for you. And so, every word you learn may one day serve to bridge kingdoms. There are lessons in the domestic arts, too. Though you will always have servants, you are expected to understand the weaving of cloth, the preparation of medicines from herbs, the organization of feasts. You embroider not only to pass the time, but to show refinement, patience, and skill. Your needlework may carry the image of saints, or a family crest, or a simple flower, each stitch a quiet act of discipline. Not all lessons are gentle. Some are harsh reminders of the role you must one day play. You are taught that your duty is obedience to your husband, loyalty to your family, and piety before God. But within those teachings lies another truth, often whispered by older women of the court, that wisdom is your only weapon. You may never carry a sword or lead an army, but through careful words, you may change the course of decisions. Through patience, you may hold power where men least expect it. As you grow, your education expands beyond the chamber. You sit in the great hall during councils, silent at first, simply observing. You watch how your father or mother speaks with nobles, how every phrase is weighed, every pause calculated. From these moments, you learn the art of diplomacy, when to speak, when to remain silent, and how silence itself can be more powerful than words. Your tutors sometimes take you into the gardens, where learning continues in a softer form. You are shown the healing qualities of herbs, the symbolism of roses and lilies, the order of the seasons. To understand nature is to understand God's design, and to manage a household garden is to provide for those under your care. Even this knowledge, humble as it may seem, is part of the queenly role. When you reach adolescence, lessons grow heavier. You are instructed in law, not deeply as a king might be, but enough to recognize the principles of justice. You learn the codes of chivalry, the customs of nobility, and the precedents of treaties. You are reminded again and again that though you may not rule openly, you must be ready to influence quietly. A misplaced word in a letter, an ill-considered response to a visiting envoy, could shift the balance of power. At night, you sit by candlelight, reading aloud with your ladies-in-waiting. Sometimes it is scripture, sometimes poetry, sometimes chronicles of past rulers. The rhythm of the words, the flicker of the flame, the soft rustle of parchment, all of it carves into your memory. Knowledge becomes part of you, as natural as breathing. The lessons are long, the discipline strict, but you know they are necessary. For one day, you will be sent from your home, across borders, into a marriage that binds kingdoms together. On that day, your jewels will shine, but it is your education that will carry you. You will be the keeper of traditions, the voice of diplomacy, the guardian of your children's future. And so, when people look upon a queen and imagine her life of ease, they do not see the hours of prayer, the endless recitation of Latin, the aching fingers over strings of a harp, the patient needlework, the careful listening in council halls. They do not see the discipline that began in childhood, shaping not just a lady of grace, but a woman of quiet power. Because in truth, the education of queens was never about leisure. It was preparation for survival in a world where her influence would be questioned, her loyalty tested, her every gesture judged. And yet, through knowledge, she endured. You grow up knowing, from the earliest days of your lessons, that your life is not fully your own. Your education, your refinement, your piety, all of it has been preparing you for one moment, the day when your hand is given in marriage. In the world of medieval royalty, marriage is not about love. It is about power, land, and alliances. And you, as a royal woman, are the bridge upon which kingdoms are joined. Perhaps you are no more than 12 or 13 when whispers begin. Ambassadors arrive, carrying letters sealed with wax. Your father speaks behind closed doors, with envoys from faraway lands. The servants chatter in the halls, and you feel their eyes on you, though you are not told the full story. But you already know. You are to be given away, as your mother was before you, as your daughters may one day be. The announcement comes suddenly, yet you are expected to accept it with grace. A marriage contract is drawn up, long, heavy, with legal phrases and promises. Dowries are negotiated. Your jewels, your lands, even your future children are listed as if they are numbers in an account. The agreement is not about your heart. It is about your worth as a political figure. When the day arrives, you are dressed in your finest garments. Gold threads glimmer in your gown. Pearls rest upon your veil. Yet beneath the weight of jewels, your body feels small, fragile. The chapel is filled with witnesses, nobles standing stiffly, priests chanting solemnly. The vows spoken in Latin bind you, but more than to the man beside you, they bind kingdoms together. As the ceremony ends, you look not only at your new husband, but also at the court around you. Some gaze with admiration, some with calculation, some with envy. You understand, perhaps better than anyone, that your body is now a treaty, your womb the vessel for alliances yet unborn. Leaving home is the hardest part. You say farewell to the halls where you learned your prayers, to the gardens where you stitched your embroidery, to the family you have known. With a heavy heart, you mount a horse or carriage and travel across borders, escorted by guards and attendants. Every mile feels like a severing of the life you once lived. By the time you arrive at your husband's court, you are not simply a woman, you are a stranger, a symbol of foreign blood entering their dynasty. The early days in your new home are filled with quiet observation. You must learn the customs of this land, the rhythms of its people, the balance of its court. You cannot show hesitation, though you feel it deeply. Your husband may be kind, or he may be cold. He may be young, or far older than you imagined. In either case, your duty remains: to stand by his side, to bear heirs, to strengthen the bond between your native land and your new one. Some marriages bring opportunity. You may find that your position as a queen consort gives you influence in court, that your counsel is sought in matters of diplomacy. Letters flow back and forth between your homeland and your new kingdom, and you are the living bridge that sustains peace. In such moments, you sense that your sacrifices are not in vain. But not all alliances hold. Some are fragile, strained by differences of culture, by pride, or by the restless hunger of neighboring lords. You may watch as peace unravels, as treaties are broken, and wars ignite despite the vows spoken at your wedding. In those times, you feel the bitter truth. that your body was not enough to hold kingdoms together. And yet, you endure. You endure the long journeys, the endless ceremonies, the careful watching of courtiers who weigh your every gesture. You endure the loneliness of being far from your homeland, the ache of missing your mother tongue, the strange taste of foreign foods. You endure because endurance itself is your greatest inheritance. There are moments of quiet strength, too. When you walk through the great hall beside your husband, all eyes follow. You sit on the throne, not as a decoration, but as a partner in rulership, a reminder that two kingdoms are bound in you. You write letters in your careful hand, soothing disputes, urging patience, calling for peace. Sometimes, through words alone, you accomplish what armies could not. And in the silence of night, when the torches burn low and your chamber is still, you reflect. You think of the girl you once were, reciting scripture at dawn, plucking the strings of a harp, stitching roses into silk. That girl has become a woman whose life carries the weight of nations. And though it was never your choice, you know this is the path you were always meant to walk. Because in the medieval world, marriage is not the end of a story. It is the beginning of another one where your name will forever be linked to treaties, to borders, to heirs, and dynasties. The love that poets sing of may not always come, but duty does. And in that duty, you carve your legacy. You have walked with these women through their struggles. You have seen the stone walls that confined them, the weight of crowns that pressed upon their brows, the endless duties that shaped every breath of their days. And yet, here, at the end of their long journey, something softer appears, a quiet truth, almost hidden, yet always present. It does not come in the ways that poets describe, or in the romances sung by wandering minstrels. It is not the grand passion of novels yet to be written. For royal women in the Middle Ages, happiness was quieter, gentler, less obvious. It was stitched into the fabric of daily life, often overlooked by others, but deeply felt by them. You imagine a queen sitting at her embroidery frame, her fingers moving steadily, the thread slipping through silk. In that simple act of creation, she finds a calm that no council meeting, no royal decree could ever give her. The designs she sews, vines, birds, flowers, are her own secret language, a reminder that beauty can still grow even in the shadow of power. Or think of her in the gardens, where the air smells of roses and lavender. She walks slowly, her ladies trailing behind. Yet in that moment, the world feels hers alone. She bends to touch the petals, their softness reminding her of childhood, before alliances and treaties claimed her name. The birds sing overhead, and for a fleeting instant, she is simply a woman, not a symbol. There is happiness, too, in friendship. The quiet laughter shared with a trusted lady in waiting, the whispered confidences by the fire, the comfort of knowing that someone sees you not as a queen or a duchess, but as yourself. In a life where everyone watches, true companionship is a rare and precious jewel. And sometimes, though not always, love does grow in marriages meant for duty. Perhaps it is slow at first, a gentle kindness from a husband who listens, who offers patience rather than commands. Over years, affection deepens, like a river carving its steady path through stone. It is not the fiery passion of troubadour songs, but it is steady, enduring, and real. For many royal women, happiness was also found in their children. The soft weight of an infant in their arms, the tiny hand curling around their finger, the sound of childish laughter echoing in vast, cold halls. Even when heirs were demanded as duty, the love that followed was genuine. A mother's joy does not ask permission from politics. It blooms, no matter the reason for the birth. And so, you see, even in the most constrained lives, light found its way in. It seeped through cracks in the stone walls. It lingered in gardens. It hid in laughter. It glowed in quiet moments of prayer. Happiness did not erase the burdens, but it coexisted with them. Now, as you listen, you might begin to notice your own breath. Slow, steady. The way the queens and noble women might have breathed while walking in their cloisters or sitting by their fires at night. You imagine yourself in their chambers, the candlelight flickering softly, shadows dancing against carved wooden walls. A hush falls over everything, and perhaps you realize their story is not so far from your own. You too carry burdens. You too walk through days of duty, expectation, and endless tasks. And yet, just like them, you find moments of stillness. A cup of warm tea, the sound of rain on the window, the comfort of a familiar voice, the peace of a quiet night like this one. As their story closes, you return gently to yourself. You are not behind castle walls. You are not weighed down by crowns or contracts. You are here now, safe and free. And yet, the lesson of those women lingers, that even in the hardest lives, there are places where joy grows, small, steady, and strong. So you rest with that thought. You carry it with you as you drift towards sleep. That happiness need not be loud, nor perfect, nor grand. It is enough that it exists in gardens, in friendship, in love, in children, and yes, in your own heart, tonight. The medieval queens are long gone, but their quiet strength endures. And as your eyes grow heavy, you can let their story fade and return to your own. Your breath is calm. Your body is heavy with rest. The night holds you gently, completely. And just like them, you are enough.